that would allow me to travel and by traveling and making artistic creations through traveling, I can then, it's furthering the idea that I can show people who didn't have a very privileged upbringing that they can also do the same things I can do.
Yeah.
So in that, so like when you think about it that way, I'm pushing my boulders faster.
Well,
This, what I'm doing now could push my boulders faster in the long game.
Yeah.
But as of right now, because, maybe I'm a bit skeptical, I have to still accept that I don't know if this is going to really change anything.
Yeah.
It could. I got this podcast from it. I'm quite happy where I live. I wouldn't, like, one of the reasons I'm doing my PhD is because I just kind of am living in the city where I can, and it's I either did a PhD or I continued teaching, and I said I'm going to do a PhD because I don't know. And for me, I like, it's kind of self-inducing of mortality, but I like living with uncertainty because if I taught for the rest of my life, as we kind of talked about before, I might, even though I'm sitting in this chair right now saying that stream is going to push my boulders faster, at the end of my life, I don't want to say, well, what if I did get a PhD? What would have happened?
Well, and also, like, who knows, man? If you kept being a teacher, maybe on your way to work, one day you get hit by a car.
You get hit by a brick.
You wouldn't have been doing that if you had gotten your PhD.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of like these what ifs and unknowns. But I think the best thing about life, from my point of view, is that we have a bit of choice and we have a bit of control in it. And we have a bit of an ability to change our circumstances and choose the boulders that we decide to push up these hills. It doesn't have to be like you can choose to, and you make the boulder whatever you want it to be, right? Because it's your own personal struggle. So if your own personal struggle is just to make it through a day, like that can be a boulder, like that's fine, and you might not be pushing society's boulder. The object of the game isn't just to push boulders, it's to be glad that you're pushing boulders. So that's kind of, just find a boulder that is nice and smooth for you to handle and enjoy what you have, because you have a boulder and you're walking up a hill and it's a beautiful day.
Yeah. Which is good advice. So it's good advice. It's kind of how I deal with it though, is right now I'm kind of dealing with just doing everything that just leads to the most uncertainty possible. I just want to
inject chaos directly.
I just want to live in entropy.
Just main veining chaos.
and because yes, like these what if questions do distress me, and I do put a lot of emphasis on it, and I'm just like, I just want to try and do things. I don't want to really sit passively through life. But the issue of living with entropy is just because this is the entropy I chose at this moment. It's very difficult knowing that, I would have had other entropy if I continued teaching, but there's other boulders too, like my artistic boulder and my influence boulder that aren't moving right now. And then, my societal boulders basically not moving, which a lot of people think it would be moving, but I just think of graduate publications as very minuscule things.
I don't even know, because you don't even know whether or not your boulder's moving or not, like your societal boulder. Like if the whole goal is to help society be a little bit better, you getting a PhD, you could make in 40 years, who the fuck knows where life, this Plinko fucking game of life leads you. And maybe you cure Alzheimer's, or maybe you do something that has a long-term impact that all of a sudden it doesn't just move the boulder an inch, like 100 years after your death, it like fucking catapults that bitch over the hill and onto another one. Like it could be
like a good analogy is, I guess the best analogy I can think of is that I'm sitting here right now where I can see that my other boulder's sitting over there. It's on the side of a sunny mountain with a gradual incline. It's a 1.3 degree incline, and it's
nice meadow. There's bunnies and daffodils.
Yeah, there's a Starbucks every like 3 blocks. And everyone's having a good time over there. There's a party over there. Meanwhile, I'm over here doing a 40 degree incline with a 700-pound boulder in like zero visibility where I can only see like literally the boulder in front of my face as I'm running as fast as I can, but I can't tell if it's
a sand dune.
But I can't tell if I'm like, I can't tell. I'm on a sand dune, so I can't tell if I'm actually moving anything or if I'm just running in the same spot. But who knows? Maybe that if I push it, that 1 micrometer, that I'm at the I maybe I'm just at the peak of a peak of a hill, and now it could possibly be where it's like I get over the peak and it rolls down and it catapults onto a a whole entire new plateau.
Yeah.
I discover something. I have no idea, but like when you look at that, it's very, very difficult.
And it's scary,
especially when you think of life in percentages.
It's terrifying. And I think that's when it comes down to it. The crux of life is that because we're so constrained by time, not only the fact that we're only here for 80 years, but that we can't move forward or backwards at will. We have to sit here and chronologically sit through this fucking thing. And we don't know what's going to happen next. And I think that feeling of the unknown, and that we only have so long and we don't know what the hell's coming next, it kind of just builds up into just these feelings of doom and anxiety. And it's just unwarranted fear, I think, because at the end of the day, it's only death. It's only the unknown.
You kind of have to embrace it, don't you?
Yeah.
Like if there's all this unknown and all this chaos, it seems to me like the best solution is to just embrace it. Do what you're doing by maximizing the chaos, that you have even more unknown to resolve.
So so rounding it out to the I guess the New Year's is that like tangibly what I'm doing now that kind of helps my mortality is, last year was the drawing the pictures. Just creating something, forcing myself to spend time that wasn't work. Near the end of the year, I didn't really work very well, but I tried to say I'm going to go somewhere that I haven't gone every weekend, meaning go for a hike. Doesn't really matter. Just want something different, experience something different, break the routine. And then the other thing that helped was this podcast. Essentially, it gave me something new to do every week, which was nice, and it created something.